hubs or to move some lever in the car, but you must come to a complete stop. And often you come to a complete stop in a place like this where you feel as though you can't move. You know, you're in sand, you're in mud, you're on a precipitous slope, and then when you want to get going again, you're stuck, four-wheel drive or not. So it is a marvellous asset to be able to engage four-wheel drive just at the flick of a switch, and you can do it at speeds of up to 60 or maybe even 80 kilometres an hour. It'll take that. If you need a vehicle that will get into really difficult conditions, then you want one like this Subaru with the twin range, so that you can just, by flicking this lever, engage low range and give yourself the great advantage of all that extra engine power to go through conditions as difficult as this. As I say, not an all-terrain vehicle, an all-roads vehicle, but this is not your average road. Oh, so it's deep. Magnificent country, isn't it? And it's real four-wheel drive country. In fact, to get up here, you need more than just four-wheel drive. You do need to have the low range. Let me give you a word of warning, though, about four-wheel drive. It does so much, it gets you to such marvellous places that the temptation might be, from the owner of a vehicle, to leave it in four-wheel drive all the time. Well, don't do that. You see, when you're on a road like that, a nice gravel road, or on a really hard surface road, there are dangers in running in four-wheel drive. And it's to do with a condition called axle wind-up. What it means is this. Each of the four wheels in your vehicle will be travelling at a slightly different speed when you go around corners, if there's a slight difference in the size of the tyre, any a number of reasons. And it puts stress and build-up into the axle shafts themselves. Now, on a loose surface like this, it doesn't matter. The wheels are spinning and they're releasing those built-up tensions within the metal. But on a road where there's no slip, a good surface, you'll end up with some severe problems if you run in four-wheel drive under ordinary conditions. There's no need for it. So only say four-wheel drive for where it's needed when you want to get to a place like this. If you're making a turn, by the way, never do a U-turn with four-wheel drive. That makes one set of wheels on the outside go through a much greater distance than the other, and it puts a terrific load into the metal. So always when you're turning a four-wheel drive vehicle, do the old three-point turn, forward, back, and then forward again. That helps to relieve some of the stresses and relieve the tensions within the system. This is the sort of hazard that any four-wheel drive exponent can expect to face many times. In fact, even look forward to with anticipation. After all, this is why you've got a four-wheel drive. This is what it's all about. But there are things to be wary of. Where water is ruffled and you can see stones, you can be reasonably sure that it's shallow, so there should be no problem here. But where water is fairly placid, as on the far side of the creek, it means it's deep, and that's where I may have problems. I'll come in at an angle in this way and then curve around, picking up the rocks and dipping my left wheel where it looks a bit deep. There's no choice. I'll be in four-wheel drive, of course. There's a technique to driving through water. This creek is hard because we'll be against the current, which makes it harder than normal. You go slowly. You've got to get over rocks. You don't want water coming up, drowning the electrics. Things are very well placed here. Spark plugs up high. Car's still running. I've got a bit of wheel spin. I'll just get reverse. See how deep we are. Still engines running. The spark plugs are clear. The air filter's clear. The thing that's most likely to happen is I'm going to drown. Let me just... Now, I've got a bit of wheel spin. The engine, though, remarkably, is still running. I'll need some help. Now, I'm stuck, as you can see. I mean, that's a mild word for being half drowned. But a couple of things are important. One is, it's here because it slipped off a rock. Nothing wrong with the vehicle. It's just very slippery. I couldn't see it, and it went to the side when I was trying to turn left. Couldn't do it. The engine is still running, and other things are still working. Now, the water here is above my waist. It's up to the switch that controls the electric windows, but look, they're still operating as well. Everything still works. I'm amazed the motor is running. But we've had to bring the Brumby in to try and pull us out, because this is, I think, a graphic illustration of when you go exploring or into difficult country with four-wheel drives, it does pay to have two, because no matter how good the vehicle, if you're probing into the unknown, like a deep creek, to try and show you how well the engine will keep running, it's nice to have someone around to pull you out. You ready, fellas? And so the camera crew drop their gear in more ways than one, and gave the Brumby a bit of a hand over the slippery rocks. Right, well, let's just run through what happened. I went here into the deep water. There was no problem with it running in the water itself. It was, as you can see, it'll run in amazingly deep water. But here, out of sight, as far as I was concerned, were a couple of big rocks. There's one here particularly that's angled. I don't know whether I can lift it. But it's resting on another one, and it was at an angle like that. And that just turned the wheel and the nose deep down into the creek. Get out of the way in case you want to try sometime. Then I had a thought. The engine was behaving as though it was out of petrol. I added some and then tried again. Now, as I was saying before I was interrupted, the secret in water is to go slowly, try and pick your path, just keep the revs up so you don't splash water up into the engine, and then choose where you want to get out and go on up. Oh, heavens, that's good.